Stretchy, sculpted, and cinched in a flash, these leg warmers were built to impress. Hey guys, I'm T, maker of 600 plus patterns and tutorials to help you crochet trendy pieces you'll actually wear. Welcome to the channel. Today's tutorial is everyday polish with a cozy finish. We're making cable stitch leg warmers that are textured, cozy, and perfect for layering or gifting. If you're new here, welcome. I share crochet tutorials and cozy patterns every Sunday and Wednesday, so tell a friend, tap the bell, and subscribe so you never miss an upload. And if you enjoy the video, give it a big thumbs up or 2 thumbs down if you don't. Either way, it helps keep these tutorials free. Any category 4 yarn will work. I used a total of 225 grams, that's 510 yards if you're stateside, along with a 5 and 5.5 millimeter hook for stretch and structure. Pattern link below, use code TCDDIY for a discount on orders over $9.99, and stay to the end for this week's pattern giveaway. We're using 6 basic stitches and turning them into the Alpine stitch in cable twist for texture. They're on screen now, pause to check it out, and a quick beginner tip, cables look fancy, or they're just front post stitches with a little bit of rhythm, and I'll walk you guys through each twist step by step. We've got this, I promise. This tutorial is made for a size small. You can adjust it for your size, we explain how to in the video. So without further ado, here's how to crochet your own cable stitch leg warmers. Getting these fanciful cable stitch leg warmers started, we're starting with the cable detail. This is going to build the height of your leg warmers from ankle to thigh as we add more rows. So start by grabbing our category 4 yarn and make a slip knot. Then our 5.5 millimeter hook. We're starting with a foundation half double crochet row. That's going to start with a chain 3. Into that first chain that we made, into the front loop and the back bump, we're going to yarn over and insert your hook underneath those 2 strands. Now we should have 2 strands plus 2 loops on our hook. Yarn over and pull through just the first 2 strands to get 3 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over and pull through just that first loop. Doing that forms the chain for the following stitch to work into. We should have 3 loops on our hook. Then we're going to half double per usual. Yarn over, pull through all 3. And that is our first foundation half double crochet stitch. The next, pretty similar, so yarn over. Into that chain that we made, into that front loop and back loop at the same time, bring our hook down underneath those 2 strands. Again, to get 2 strands and 2 loops on our hook. Yarn over, pull through the 2 strands to get 3 loops on our hook. We're always going to yarn over and pull through just 1 first to make sure we form that chain. Then yarn over, pull through 3, and that's half double crocheting per usual. We're doing a foundation half double crochet row. Now this is to help us avoid working into chains, but also give us a really clean edge for the bottom. Count to make sure you have at least 14 stitches. That gives just enough space for the Alpine stitch pattern on both sides and the 2 cable twists in the center. If you want a wider panel, just add stitches in multiples of 4. This keeps your Alpine stitch section odd numbered and your cable centered, so the instructions stay the same no matter what size you're making. I'm going to make a total of 14 foundation half double crochets because that's the size that I need. And that width is just about 4 inches or 10 centimeters. Now pause here. Make sure your stitches look aligned and our numbers are in the multiples that we need. Now we're going to place our stitch markers just so we know exactly where our center twists are going to be. Start by finding our 2 middle stitches. Mine is a 7 stitch from both outer edges. Then we're all going to count 4 stitches from our center stitch. So including that center stitch is 1, 2, 3, 4. Insert my stitch marker, same on the other side. Then take out our 2 center stitch markers. And from stitch marker to stitch marker, everyone should have 8 stitches. The next row is a single crochet row. We're going to chain 1 and single crochet all the way down the row, making sure that we're placing our stitch markers into the same stitches. And since these are leg warmers, we're going to make sure that we're keeping track of every stitch that we have, every rows that we make, because we are going to make a second leg warmer that is exactly the same way. Our single crochet row is done. Now for the fun part, which is our cable stitches. Chain 2 and flip. For everyone's first Alpine stitch, we're going to start with 1 half double crochet into that first stitch. Yarn over, first stitch, pull through all 3. The Alpine stitch is really just a staggering between a half double and a front post double. So now to do our front post double, yarn over. Now every post stitch is going to be worked into our previous odd number row. Since we're currently working on row 3, we're going to insert our hook into our row 1. We're going to make sure that we're not counting that chain 2 as a stitch. We're going to skip that first foundation half double because the half double that we did counts as that stitch. So into the next. we're going to bring our hook down and underneath the body of that stitch through the other side. Yarn over and pull through. When we have these 3 loops on our hook, we want to make sure that we're pulling nice and tall to get the same height as the half double crochet that we just made. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. That is 1 half double, 1 front post double for the Alpine. We're going to repeat these 2 stitches until we reach our stitch marker. For me, that's just 1 more additional stitch. So yarn over. We're going to skip 1 stitch from our previous row because that front post double counts as that stitch. Into the next, insert with a half double crochet. Now, if you haven't reached your stitch markers yet, continue on with your Alpine stitch detail until you do. Then we can work on our center cable. Now the center cable is going to be divided by our dividing stitches, which is always going to be front post treble crochets. So to do a front post treble, we're all just going to yarn over twice. We want to make sure that we're working underneath the stitch that the stitch marker is into and not the stitch right before that, because remember that half double crochet counts as that stitch. So into that following stitch, insert your hook underneath, through the other side, pull through. To get 4 loops on our hook, then for these post stitches, just yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. Now I am going to bring my stitch marker into this dividing stitch just to make sure I know where I'm at. Now for the twisties, we're going to yarn over twice, preparing for another front post treble. Looking at our row 1, we are going to skip 1 stitch, then 1 front post double treble into each of the next 2 stitches. So remember, skip 1, underneath the body of the next, through the other side, pull through 2, 2, 2 for our first front post treble, into the next, another front post treble, so yarn over twice. And again, just pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. Now for the twist part, we're going to work back into that 1 skipped stitch, so yarn over twice. Bring your hook down, underneath that stitch, through the other side, and pull through. Then again, yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. And that is our first twist. Now it's going to be a repeat of this right over here. So again, yarn over twice. We are going to skip that next stitch and underneath that next, through the other side, pull through, then yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. Another front post treble underneath that following stitch. So yarn over twice again. Underneath the body of that next stitch, yarn over, pull through, then yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left. Then for the twist, so yarn over twice again. Working back into that 1 skipped stitch, underneath, pull through, then pull through 2, and we are done with the twist portion. Now we are going to need to do our dividing stitch, which again is our front post treble. So yarn over twice, underneath the body of that following stitch, pull through, and continue to pull through 2. And now the center twist detail is completed. And I'm going to bring my stitch marker up into that dividing stitch as well. Then to close it off with our Alpine stitch detail. Now for this Alpine detail, we want to make sure that we're skipping 8 stitches from the previous row. The previous row is that single crochet row. We're skipping 8 because we just did a total of 8 stitches for our twist detail. So to count that out together, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going to skip those 8, then half double crochet into the next. Then just like how we started, a front post double underneath the body of that next stitch. Don't forget to pull up nice and tall and double per usual, and continue on with this until we run out of stitches, and everyone's last stitch for the row should be a half double crochet. Now some fun notes, we should still have the same amount of stitches as foundation half double crochets that we made, because for this portion we aren't doing any increases or decreases. Then we should have the same amount of stitches for our Alpine stitch detail on both sides. Now every even number row, single crochet row, pretty standard. So chain 1, flip our work. 1 single into every stitch, bringing our stitch markers with us. Row 4 is complete. Quick tip, whenever we're looking at the back of our piece, it is going to form these little pockets. That's just because we didn't work into those stitches when we did our cable stitch detail. Now to do our row 5, chain 2 and flip. Now working this cable stitch detail, the only real difference is just going to be the Alpine stitch details, since the center twists are pretty much going to be the same. For the Alpine stitch detail, our stitches need to be staggered to get the texture that we want. So since we worked a half double crochet into that first stitch, then we're just going to front post double crochet into that half double crochet. So yarn over. Into the first half double crochet from our previous row, making sure we're not looking at that chain 2. Bring your hook down, underneath the body of that stitch, yarn over, pull through to get 3 loops on our hook. We want to make sure that we're always pulling up nice and tall to get the texture that we want. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Then we're going to half double crochet on top of that front post double from the last Alpine stitch section. We want to make sure that we're skipping 1 stitch from our previous row because that front post double actually counts as that stitch. If we work into there, we will accidentally be increasing. So just into that next stitch, insert with a half double. And continue on with our front post double, half double until we're ready to do our cable stitch detail. Then to do our cable, same as before. Starting with our dividing stitch, we're all going to yarn over twice. Underneath the body of that first front post treble from our previous row, pull through 2, 2, 2. Then to do the same twist that we did, we're going to yarn over twice again. Taking a look at that previous odd number row, which is our row 5, we're going to skip that first stitch, and then into each of the next 2 stitches, 1 front post treble crochet into each of those. So remember, skip 1, underneath the body of that next, through the other side with 1 front post treble, underneath the body of that next stitch, another front post treble. Then for the twist portion, into that 1 skip stitch with another front post treble. And that is 1 twist completed. And our twists are complete. Now to finish this up, our dividing stitch, which is a front post treble crochet, always. Now to close this row off, it's going to be our same Alpine stitch detail that we started with. So what we're going to do is a front post double crochet because the first stitch from our previous Alpine stitch detail was a half. So yarn over, underneath the body, through the other side, and pull through. Yank up nice and tall, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. Now to do our half double crochet, we're now going to skip 10 stitches from our previous single crochet row because counting from this first front post treble across our cable stitch detail to this last front post treble that we did, that's a total of 10 stitches. Skip those 10 into the next with a half double crochet. Then just front post double, half double until we all have 1 stitch left, and everyone's last stitch for this row should be a front post double crochet. To ensure that the edge of this detail is laid down nice and flat, we're going to do a front post double crochet combined with a half double. How we do that? Yarn over. Underneath the last stitch from our previous odd number row, bring your hook down underneath and pull through. Then since we have 3 loops on our hook, pull up tall, yarn over, pull through 2 to get 2 loops on our hook. From here, we're going to yarn over again. Into the last stitch from our previous row, we're going to insert our hook, but we're going to bring our stitches forward and insert it underneath right here. So bring it forward, insert, and pull through just that stitch to get 4 loops on our hook. Then yarn over and pull through all 4 loops. And this doesn't add an extra stitch, just a little extra security. And every even number row, like I said, single crochet row. So just make your way down to their single crochets. First 6 rows are completed. So now that we have set up the stitch count and layout, we're just going to repeat rows 3 through 6 until the panel reaches from ankle to thigh, or really however high you want your leg warmers to be. Just remember that we are going to add a top and bottom end later to give it just a little bit more height, so save a little bit of room for that. Then just make sure that you end right after an odd number row just to keep the shaping smooth for the next section for everyone. But just to make sure that we all have the right ideas down, I'm just going to get started on the next row with you, so chain 2 and flip. We're starting on row 7, so that's going to be a repeat of our row 3. Our row 3's Alpine stitch detail started with a half double crochet. Then a front post double, so into the half double crochet from our previous Alpine stitch detail, insert with a front post double into there, and half double front post double until we're ready to do our twists. Then our twists, always going to be the same. We're going to start with our dividing stitch, then do our same twist that we just did for the last 2 rows. So let's just skip a stitch, 1 front post double treble into each of the next 2 stitches, and work back into that skip stitch. Now just keep working on these rows until we get the height that we want. Now just a really quick check-in, how high are you guys going to make yours? Are y'all thinking of making ankle length or thigh high leg warmers? Drop your style comments down below. Length of my leg warmers, all done. I have a total of 63 rows. This height, just about 19 inches or 48 centimeters. Now we're going to add some width with some back loop slip stitch rows. First, we're going to need to single crochet along the edge though, just to clean it up. So we're now going to rotate our leg warmers 90 degrees. I don't know if this is 90 degrees, but we're going to rotate it. And we're going to switch out our hook to our 5mm hook. Now single crocheting down the edge, we're just going to put 2 single crochets into every side, cable stitch row, 1 single crochet into every side, single crochet row. Everyone's first side row is a cable, so find that top loop and insert with 2 singles. There's 1, and then there's 2. Then into that next side row, which is a side single crochet row, if you're having a hard time finding the single crochet row, you can just flip your work over and just kind of trace this solid row all the way across. And that last gap right there is going to be where we're going to insert our hook. So in through there with just 1 single. Our next side row is a side cable. Now this one may be a little tricky because it is the cable stitch row that ends with a front post double combined with a half double. So we're going to kind of separate that last stitch. This is that last front post double, and then that half double that's worked into that last stitch, and just find that half double and insert with 2 single crochets. We want to make sure that we're working into that half double instead of the whole front post double, just to make sure that it stays consistent along the edge. Then to find our next single crochet row, it is going to be underneath that front post double. So you might want to separate that again. And that is my side single crochet row. So insert in through there with 1. Now we want to make sure that we're keeping our tension roughly at a medium tension. Now that's tight enough to avoid ruffling, but also loose enough to stay nice and flexible. And again, just make sure that we're keeping track of how many stitches that we have for this single crochet row, because we are going to repeat this on the other side as well. And if our numbers are off, our seam could be a little off. Then we're going to build the rest of our width with back loop slip stitch rows for a stretchy knit-like look. Just chain 1, flip our work, and using a loose tension, insert your hook into that first stitch's back loop, or the loop that's furthest away from us, yarn over, pull through everything on our hook, and continue working with back loop slip stitches for the rest of the width for this panel. Now these rows are going to add stretch and structure. We're just going to work them back and forth until the panel reaches mid-calf when it's gently stretched. Now we want to make sure that the cable stitch detail is staying centered on the shin, so that we'll repeat the same width on the other side, and then it'll kind of close up. Track your count here. We will need to match the rows exactly for the other side and for the other leg warmer as well. And at the end of this side panel, don't cut if it's possible, because I know sometimes you got to. But if you don't, we can actually work straight into the next section. Now we're going to want to check the width and make sure that the panel hugs the leg without pulling. Including my first single crochet row, I have a total of 16 rows. That's just about 2 inches or 5 centimeters, or my total width is now 6 inches or 15 centimeters. Now the other side is going to be exactly the same as the first. So still using our 5mm hook, insert it into the tail end of our cable stitch detail, then our single crochet row. Reference your notes, make sure we have the same amount of stitches on both sides, then just repeat the exact same width, build with the same row count, same tension, because symmetry is everything for this piece. And after the second panel, just like the first, if it's possible, don't cut again because we can work straight into the next section. Both panels, all done. The total width that I have is now just about 12 inches or 30 centimeters that is unstretched. Now from here, we're going to fold our work in half, kind of creating a tube so that we can seam it. We are going to seam from the bottom up, doing an outside loop slip stitch seam, and this is going to create a clean join that just looks like an extra slip stitch row, so it blends right on in. So what we're going to want to do is place this onto ourselves, making sure that the first row is right at our ankle. Then, very scientifically, from the bottom all the way up until it gets a little bit too tight to pinch, we're just going to pinch all the way up, and then wherever it gets a little bit too tight, place your stitch marker into there. Now my stitch marker is into the 45th stitch from the bottom. That is just about 9 inches or 23 centimeters. Then insert your hook into the bottom corner stitch of both panels. Yarn over, pull through, chain 1 to secure. Then to make it look like another back loop slip stitch row, we're going to find that first stitch into the front, insert only into that front loop. Next stitch into the back panel, insert only into that back loop. Yarn over, gently pull through all 3 loops. And that is our outside loop slip stitch seam. We're going to keep working this outside loop slip stitch seam until we make our way up to our stitch marker. When we reach our stitch marker, cut, then we're going to work on the gusset to help fill in our thighs. And now it's time to add the gusset panel to give a little extra room for our thighs. Now since we didn't cut, we're going to insert your hook in through the working yarn that we have, and then just do our slip stitch rows into the open V-shaped gap along the back. So starting at the top corner of the V and work downward, add 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. Leave 1 stitch right before that calf seam, then we're going to decrease together. Now we're going to work a decrease 3 right at the center. Into the 1 stitch right before our seam, insert into that back loop, pull through, Then into the top of the seam, there's not going to be an actual stitch. We're just going to insert, pull through, then into the first available stitch on the other side of our seam, insert in through that back loop. We should have 1, 2, 3, 4 loops. Yarn over, pull through all 4 of those loops. That is our decrease 3 back loop slip. Place a stitch marker into the top of that stitch, then work the rest of the row with 1 back loop slip into every stitch. And this is basically going to be the gusset. It's just back loop slip stitch rows with a decrease 3 right in the center. Each row is going to have 2 less stitches than the last, and this is going to create that tapered triangle that expands the fit without any bulk. And just keep repeating this until it fills the gap and the top edge feels snug but still flexible. For this, there's no exact row count here. Just make sure you check and pinch after every few rows as you go, and then just stop whenever it feels right to you. But once we have that, which I have a total of 6 of these gusset rows, we're just going to seam it up doing the same outside loop slip stitch seam that we did for the calf. Now we're ready to add just a little bit more structure with the top band. We're going to make sure our work is flipped right side out. Insert your hook into the top of our piece. The top is where the top edge of the gusset is, so the wider end, and I just inserted my hook into the stitch that's nearest to my seam. We'll start by cleaning up the top edge with just a single crochet round. That's just going to be 1 single crochet in through every side row and 1 single crochet in through every stitch. Now for this, pretty simple, just keep your tension medium. This is going to set the foundation for a snug but stretchy band. This is basically just giving us a clean edge and a solid base for the band. And now let's close up the single crochet row. So into that chain space that we made, we're just going to slip stitch into there. And that is going to connect the end to the beginning of the row. Quick tip, it is going to give us an additional stitch. That doesn't actually count as a stitch, that's just to connect. Now we're ready to work the height. Start with a chain for the height that we'd like for the top band to be. I'd like for mine to be just about 3 inches or 5 centimeters, so I'm going to start with a chain 15. And now we're going to slip stitch back down, but this first row is going to be worked in through the back bumps. So block off that last chain and chain 1. That chain 1 is our turning chain. Then turn our work over to look at the bottom of our chain. We're going to find these individual bumps that we have and work into there. Into that second chain from our hook. Insert with a slip stitch. Insert, yarn over, and still gently pull through everything. We want to make sure we're still not tugging through too tightly. Again, next stitch is back bump, insert, pull through everything. And keep working these back bump slip stitches until you reach the base. And now just connecting this into the band, slip stitch into that next available stitch. This is mine. Slip stitch into there. Now that slip stitch does not actually count as a stitch. That's just to anchor down this first row. Then to work our way up to the following row, we are going to slip stitch up that next stitch into the base as well. That slip stitch is basically going to act as our turning chain, still doesn't count as a stitch. Flip our work and do the next row, which is back loop slip stitches, but making sure that we're not working into any of those slip stitches into the base. If we do, we are accidentally going to increase. So into the last stitch from our previous row, insert into that back loop, yarn over, pull through everything. And at the end of the row, we're just going to repeat. So chain 1, flip our work, more back loop slip stitches all the way down since we're already experts at that, connecting it into the base the same way that we just did. And just keep working these back loop slip stitch rows. No increases, no decreases until we're worked into every single stitch all the way around. Now that the top band's completed, it's time to close it up with the seam. This is going to be another outside loop slip stitch seam just like before. Clean, stretchy, and nearly invisible. Now finishing off this piece, the bottom band is going to be exactly the same as the top, but just a smidge shorter. Same method though, just a little bit more subtle. So starting with our single crochet row along the bottom, just to clean up the edge. Again, 1 single in through every side row, 1 single in through every stitch. Then chain the height that we like for the bottom band to be. Mine is just a little bit shorter than the top, so I'm making a chain 10. That's roughly 2 inches or 5 centimeters. Then work the same back loop slip stitch row all the way around. We have just worked our way around with our same back loop slips as our top band. Now do the same exact outside loop slip stitch seam that we have done for pretty much every seam so far for this piece. Then we're complete with 1 leg warmer. Now go ahead and make your second one to match. Same stitch count, same row count, same pinch point, and you have completed both of your leg warmers. And there you have it, your very own cable detailed leg warmers. We are so proud of how this turned out. I can't wait to see your versions. And if you make your own, don't forget to post it in our community tab so we can all admire your stitch work. Now, I would love to hear from you guys. Would you keep these for yourself or make these for someone else? Drop your comments down below. Enter this week's pattern giveaway for our cozy pullover crop sweater and hooded scarf with pocket pattern by answering what's your dream cozy getaway. Mine would be a staycation. In the house, crocheting, watching our favorite shows. If you love this tutorial, hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss a new pattern. We drop fresh content every Sunday and Wednesday. Want more? Find us on Instagram and TikTok at TCDDIY for behind the scenes content, pattern sneak peeks, and daily crochet inspiration. Thank you guys so much for crocheting with us today. Happy hooking, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!